If you subtract those two, we'll be walking away with $19,420 at closing. What's up, everybody? In this video, I'll be going over how you can purchase a property subject to the existing financing. Listen, this is going to be some real good content, so please just take 1 second, hit the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell, because that's going to send positive signals to YouTube and they'll push it out to a larger audience. So do that for me. Now let's get into it. Just to make sure that you have a solid understanding for subject to, we're going to use an example that is considered a low equity type property. So basically it's going to be anywhere from 10 to 15%. And, you know, just to make it make a little bit more sense, I'm gonna give you an example. Let's say that the property is worth $150,000 in its current condition. 15% of that amount would actually be $22,500. So if you subtract the $22,500 from the $150,000, you will have a loan amount of $127,500. So you see the difference? That creates a 15% equity amount in the property, which as a wholesaler, we wouldn't be able to make any money off that deal if we wanted to go in with a cash offer, just because there just isn't enough equity in the property to create a spread. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Another thing that you should check for is the area that the property is in as well too, because you don't want to end up getting a property that's out in the middle of nowhere and no one wants anything to do with it, because then you're going to have an issue with selling the property. So what I recommend, make sure you have buyers in the area. Make sure that you'll be able to flip the property to an investor, or with these subject to options, you can actually flip it to someone that's looking on the retail market as well too, that may not have good credit. So that's a plus when it comes down to doing subject to financing or seller financing. You can always pitch it to a retail buyer, which I feel will get you even more money than dealing with investors. The next thing that's very important to check is to make sure that the monthly payment is not more than what the market rents are, because if it's not, that's going to automatically rule out you selling the property to investors, because they're going to be looking to have a spread in place if they wanted to rent the property out so they can collect cash flow every single month. So you make sure that you verify that as well too. Last thing, which I mentioned before, make sure that the property has minimum repairs. So be in fair condition, good condition, or great condition whenever you're dealing with a low equity property, because if the spread isn't there, then you're going to run into an issue where if you put too much money into it, if you put any money into it, the deal will actually be upside down at that point. So you'll be losing money because of the no equity and the repairs that will be needed. Now let's get into this example. So let's say that we ran into a property that is worth $220,000. Since we're dealing with low equity properties, it has to be in fair condition. So this particular property is in fair condition to where someone can actually move into it as a retail buyer if they wanted to. So this doesn't just appeal to investors. The loan amount that's left on this property is $179,000, and it's a conventional loan, so it's going to be easy to work with. That's the loan types that we would definitely love to wrap. The monthly payment, which I said is very important as well, the monthly payment on this property is $855 per month, and the market rents, which I also told you was very important, because the market rents can't be less than what the monthly payment is. The market rents in that area is $1,334. So that's how much you can actually rent for. And like I said, your monthly payment is $855. So that checks the box on that area. All right, so the next part of this deal is going to be very, very, very important, because this is going to determine what your potential spread is going to be. You're going to have to be able to sit down with the seller and say, hey, Mrs. or Mr. Seller, we're definitely interested in this property. We see that the cash offer wouldn't work. So let me ask you this, what would be a good number for you to actually walk away with? What would you walk away with and be satisfied? And let's say the seller end up saying, hey, if I can get $8,000 to walk away with from this property, I would do that. If I can get $8,000, I would happily walk away from this property. So, you know, you already ran the numbers. You already got in mind what would actually work. So you know that since this property is in fair condition, it has low equity, that amount wouldn't actually work. So you pitch to the seller, $3,580 is your best number that you can possibly do, and that'll take care of everything, and they'll take over the existing finance from there. And let's say the seller agreed to it. That is key, because now whenever you pitch it to a buyer, which we're going to get to a little bit later, so make sure you stick around, you'll be able to create a spread. Now let's say that you agree with the seller to keep the loan in place for 8 years. So you would wrap the existing loan for 8 years. The loan amount will remain the same, which will be $179,000. And you let the seller know that the payments cannot exceed the current mortgage amount, which is $855 per month. So that's going to remain the same, even though that doesn't have anything to do with the seller, but that must be in your addendum whenever you're flipping it to an investor or to a retail buyer. All right, so the next part of the transaction would be pitching it to your investor, pitching it to your retail buyer, or whoever's going to buy the property. Like I said, you have options, and my number one option would actually be a retail buyer instead of an investor, because they're going to be willing to pay more. So the purchase price for the buyer would be $202,000. The down payment from the buyer would be $23,000. The term that you're going to wrap the loan would be 8 years, and the loan amount will remain the same, $179,000 after the down payment. We already said that payments want to see $855 per month, and we know that the market rents will be $1,334 per month. And if you were pitching it to an investor, the potential cash flow every single month would be around $500 per month. So I don't know if you following me with this process, but now I hope you can see how we'll actually be able to make money, which is exciting. So us as the wholesalers at the closing table, we will have an amount owed to the seller of $3,580. The buyer would owe us at the closing table $23,000. We still have the same wrap term, which would be 8 years. The loan amount would be $179,000, and payments would not exceed $855 per month. If you subtract the down payment from the buyer and the down payment to the seller, that's going to create a spread. And that'll be money that's just sitting there. So obviously, that's the money. That's how we would create our assignment fee, because we negotiated well with the seller, and they only wanted around $3,000, and we got a $23,000 down payment from the buyer. If you subtract those two, we'll be walking away with $19,420 at closing, just from being more creative with our deal. Instead of always basing it off of a cash offer, we created this type of money out of thin air. Now, this is just the basics. You should always sit down with an attorney to make sure that you're structuring everything correctly. But this is just a basic, and it shows you how this strategy can be very powerful, and it can bring your leads per deal down from 1 in 50 leads to 1 in 20 leads, because you added this creative strategy to your tool belt. Now, what's different from my seller finance video, which I have linked here, is you do have a loan and a mortgage in place. So feel free to check the seller finance one out as well too. And in that seller finance deal, how I structure it normally is the deed and title won't transfer until the final payment is made, but what's subject to, the deed and title will transfer at closing. So it'll just be the loan amount that remains in the seller's name. Now, if you enjoy this content, please hit the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell, because I continue to bring more content. And I just want to thank everybody. Over this past month, I set a goal to hit 70 subscribers, and we completely crushed that goal. I'm currently at 370 subscribers in 2 months. So I really appreciate that. And please hit the like button and subscribe, and I continue to bring more content. And if you have any questions, definitely head over to my Instagram, and I'll definitely get back to you. Or leave a comment down below, and I'll get back to you in the comment as well. I'll see you next time.